Hi, my name is Tom Ingram, driver for Team Bristol Street Motors in the BTCC. I think we look back at 2023 as actually a year that we learned more than we've ever learned previously. And you sometimes take that, you sometimes take more out of not winning than you do out of winning. And I think we learned a lot from 2023, not least about ourselves in how we look at the race weekends, to how we prepare, to all the bits and pieces that make up a campaign and that go together to try and produce a campaign. So that has been a really useful exercise in a way to go, okay, what do we need to change now? What's worked, what hasn't worked? What is going to unlock the next level of performance that we clearly need to try and take the title back? The start of the campaign was perfect. The Donington Park race weekend was amazing, and I think that all comes back to that winter of preparation. It was a good pre-season campaign for us. In the past, and especially in last year, our pre-season was rubbish. We had no dry running, we had no useful days. Every time we turned up, it would have this little bit of drizzle and would never be wet, would never be dry, it would always be in between. And the pre-season of 2024 was a stark contrast. We had 3 days at Pembury where the sun shone continuously for us. We then went to another circuit the same, another circuit the same. So our preparation was already better. So we started the campaign going, okay, we're in good shape here. All the tweaks that we wanted to do, we did. They've all made a difference, they've all improved the car. So we're in a good place now actually where we go into every weekend going, we've got a good car already. Whereas that's not something we had in 23. We were always on the back foot. We never really knew where we wanted to be. We were always making changes on a Saturday night. We were making changes throughout Sunday. So every time we drove the car, it was different. That's what we learned a lot from. That's where we learned that we need something that is going to be working for us now and at the end of the year and continuously throughout. So that's kind of been what's been good for us. You feel totally different, and that's not just for me. That's the same for all of our team. We all feel more relaxed. You all feel more confident in what you're doing. You'll have a little bit more confidence about you that actually what we're doing is really good and we've got a good car underneath us. So you don't feel so much on the maybe panic side, if you were to call it that. What's going on there? How do we improve that? What can we do there? You go, just relax. We know what we've got is good. Let's go from there. So because of it, everyone feels better about it. Everyone's in a happy place. And the first half of the season has kind of shown that we've been very fast. We've also made a couple of wrong calls. I'll hold my hands up to a couple of those. The tyre choice at Snetterton, the Thruxton incident.
Tom Ingram has lost his race 2 win after being penalised for problems at the chicane.
And a few others in between that actually we've lost a couple of points where we shouldn't necessarily have done. However, we know that's the first half of the season that we look back at. We now look forward to the second half of the season to make sure that we don't make those mistakes again and we continue to not least be fast, but be consistently fast. No. I'm a great believer in control the controllables firstly, which means I can't do anything about anything else. I cannot do anything about the performance of Ash, performance of Jake, performance of Colin, the performance of Josh. The list is endless of names I could reel off. So no is a simple answer. I don't worry too much about what other people are doing. You focus on your own and go, what do we need to do to maximise it, to make sure that when we turn up, we're fast. When we need a bit more, we do this. When the car's doing this, we do. So we've got an armoury around us. It's a headspace, it's a head game, it's a mindset of making sure that you're as prepared as you can be and as good as you can be every time you turn up. Yeah, because if I did it any other way, it would have been a crash. I still feel very strongly about it. I still don't agree with the decision. We could make a 45-minute video of me talking about this. But it's a strange one, I'll be honest with you, because for me, we're all told about these rules of overlaps or guidelines, I should say, of overlaps and giving positions back and you know trying to preserve cars that we're not bashing into each other. Doesn't quite seem like that's the way we're supposed to race sometimes. It seems like we're encouraged to encouraged to do stuff that maybe we shouldn't. I jumped the chicane from a safety perspective because had I stayed on the circuit, I would have fired Dan into the wall, not from the speed that I went in at, more from the speed that Dan rolled out the brakes and tried to come around my outside. If I would have stayed on the track, it'd have been in the wall. Sounds like that's the outcome that should actually have been taken. It was my corner. I was ahead going in. Dan then decided to roll back in and try to come around the outside. So at that point, the move was kind of done from my side. Dan then ran off the circuit after the corner, which then let Josh come past. So I went across the line 1.6 seconds ahead of Dan and yielded enough time that at the end of the next lap, Dan was 6/10 behind me. So I yielded as much time as I could. I can't let Josh back pass, because that would be ridiculous. So Dan then went across the line on my rear bumper. So the time that was given back was the time that I probably did gain by going through the chicane. But the time was only gained because Dan also stopped on the outside of the corner. So I still feel very strongly about it and I don't agree with it in the slightest, but I'm sure that will be one of those things that rumbles on. I still, you know, it's a really cool stat, and you're absolutely right. To look back at those wins that I've taken, I can probably remember them all. I can probably remember all the podiums because, as you rightly said, for me, joining the championship was as much of a dream as ever competing in it. So to look back after 10 odd seasons as somebody who's won, you know, a championship and 30 odd races along the way, I'd take a huge amount of satisfaction and joy from as well. And knowing that it's not come easy, it's not. You know, none of those have been gifted or, you know, anything else like that. They've all been hard fought, but also just in the way that we've worked off track to stay in a position where we can compete and we can be in a competitive car, because we know this championship is not just about being a fast racing driver. This championship is as much about being a fast racing driver, having a good car around you, having a good team around you, having a good set of engineers, you know, being in a good headspace. There's so much that goes to it. It's not just a case of turn up and drive fast. There's so many bits and pieces that have to fall in line. So to have been able to have done 10 years, and I'd probably argue at least 6 of those have been done at the front every single weekend, has been fantastic. And it's had highs, it's had lows, of course it has, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I think so, yeah. 2015 at Rockingham will hold a special place in my memory, because it was with Jason, and Jason was enormously helpful in my career, you know, not least getting me to touring cars, but as a mentor when I was in touring cars as well. He was incredibly helpful to me, and I'll always be indebted to Jason for that. So to have been able to race wheel to wheel with Jason was fantastic. It was really good fun. Jason came out on top, but you know, a couple of years later, it was, you know, wheel to wheel again at Silverstone. But yeah, Jason, I have a huge amount of respect for that we've raced wheel to wheel at. But you're absolutely right. There's some of those early memories that you think back as the Rockingham one. Took a podium there a couple of races later at Brands GP, and then we started the 2016 campaign, qualifying pole, winning race 1, and going away actually as race winners. And so much about that is exactly as I spoke on earlier, that it's a mental game. You only need a good result, and suddenly you've unlocked that, don't even know what it is, something that gives you the next level up. I think the biggest thing that we've noticed this year is the tyre. We know that that's the single thing that you can bolt on that makes a difference. You've got to remember when we had success ballast, that made a difference 100% of the time it was in the car. So that made a difference from your start, to your first lap, to your performance of the car, to your braking performance at the end of the lap. It affected you 100% of the time. So when we moved away from that to hybrid, it was never going to be the same. It's not the same, it's not doing the same thing. It's only probably active 20% of the time. So the effect or whatever, however you would say, is totally different. The option tyre takes it back to being that almost 100% of the time again. It makes a difference with every aspect of the car, how it feels on the brakes, what it's like as it goes in, the way it comes out, and it makes a big difference. So that's what brings the changes back. The hybrid performance obviously increasing has also made a big difference. We noticed that at Brands Indy, a short lap. Thruxton, not quite as effective, just the way that the system will work. It's an interesting one to have to try and play with, because it feels like it makes a bigger difference in the races than it does in qualifying. You can overtake people in places that seem bizarre. I remember Ash and I having a battle at Donington and, you know, coming past well before Schwantz. It's made a big difference. And the qualifying format, I think, has been one of those things that, has it necessarily changed who's on pole? No, but I think it's added a little bit more jeopardy to the entirety when you're lower in hybrid. I fell foul of that at Brands Indy. I fell foul of that at Snetterton. Two circuits that quite contrasting. I expected it to make a difference to us at Brands Indy. Snetterton, we made a completely wrong call on in performance of the car. But because of that, you feel foul and you're out of qualifying. So it changes the way you look at it. So I don't necessarily think it's changed who qualifies on pole, but I think it's made you not having a good weekend even more critical, making sure that you're there or thereabouts every single time, which we know is the key to unlocking the championship here. I think I've got into every finale since 2017 in with a mix. So it's something that I'm keen to keep going, but it's equally something I'm keen to make sure that I can be in the strongest place possible in the run into the finale now, because we know that the first half of the season goes very quickly. The second half of the season will go just as fast, but it's even more important to make sure that you're staying in the mix, scoring big points every weekend, having a weekend of big points. Someone's come up with a word for that. That I think if we can continue that form, that's going to be the key thing. Consistency is the thing that's going to win it this year, because we know that Ash is fast, we know Jake's fast, we know Josh is fast, we know Colin's fast, we know everyone's fast. So it's going to come down to fine margins, it's going to come down to finite points, I think, as we go into the finale.